Morning, folks. How are we all this morning? I hope I find you well. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I've got a Charlie cat in my lap here. Good there. So we just need to work round about him now. But that's nothing new, is it? Ever since we devil come into our lives. Anyway, we'll get Facebook on board, and then we'll get this underway. Now, unusually for me, folks, I was taken in with some propaganda in the news yesterday. And after having a look at it, because you know I do, things are not all the way it was portrayed in the papers yesterday. But we'll talk about that this afternoon. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the UK-India trade deal. The main highlight in the papers yesterday was on how it was going to disadvantage UK workers. Well, it does. But that counts for 17 other countries that have got the same deal. Because the deal only applies to short-term visas. To say we'll get into it later this afternoon. So, yep, there are disadvantages to the trade deal. But at this point in time, folks, because as you know, I am quite thorough. At this point in time, folks, I'll stick this up. I am currently reading the UK-India free trade deal. And the specific section I'm on right now is economic analysis on benefits and detractors. And I have to say, so far, case study after case study here, and that's what these are, all case studies, all seem to believe that this would be a good deal for the UK, especially in agriculture, especially high-end, because that's what mainly what we do here in Scotland. High-end agriculture, the alcohol industry, which surprised me, tech industry, textiles. The jury's out on the automotive businesses, because India tends only to buy, or Indian citizens who've got a few quid tend only to buy high-end stuff for us. So high-end food, high-end drink, high-end textiles, high-end technology being traded back and forth, pharmaceuticals, but motor vehicles don't seem to be there unless they're luxury brands like Aston Martin. Okay, but as I say, looking at the deal itself and looking at all the analysis I was showing you there, because that's what I'm reading at the moment, and believe me, there's lots and lots of analysis on it, which is quite surprising as it was only announced yesterday, or the day before yesterday, but there's lots of analysis on it. And the deal itself, or a summary of the deal, can be found on the UK government website, as you've seen there. So it's no the way it was being portrayed in the press, and to my shame, I should have known better. We'll talk a wee bit more about it this afternoon, okay? Now we'll get Facebook on board. We're up over the 100 mark, so let's get this programme underway. Andy Truck Davy booked the truck at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it's a beautiful morning. Clear skies, warm, 12 degrees. No rain in the forecast. Predicted high today, 17 for my area. Really quite warm. And pollen count is low, but unfortunately it's a nasty little pollen that's out and about at the moment, and that's grass. So as everybody's out mowing the lawn, put away allergies, get a snotty nose and puffed up eyes. But I've already taken my wee tablet this morning, my antihistamine, so I should be fine. Right, let's get this show underway, shall we? First up this morning, we have the Scotsman. I'll put it up. The Scotsman has Thank You. And this is the 80th anniversary of VE Day. And within the Scotsman today, and probably a couple more, you will get some articles from the Second World War as they were being reported on at the time. A lot of them are calling these souvenir editions. Now, as I say, 80 years on since victory in Europe. We'll stop sharing that. Next up, we have the Daily Rancid, and you know I don't put the Rancid up. And it has, it will never happen. What was it? Never again is the headline. And I have to say, sorry Rancid, the way things are going, again's going to be quite soon. And I mean that sincerely, folks. There's a lot of bonfires going on around the planet at the moment, and it's just a matter of fire spreading as allies start to batter in to bail each other out. Okay, next up we have a loony right-wing knuckle draggers paper, The Express, and that is Britain remembers the VE Day spirit 80 years on. The VE Day spirit. And if I remember right, people were celebrating on the streets. I don't see any of that this morning. Homes were ruined, people had died, but there was a sense of hope in our small community. People knew there were better days ahead. Well, that's generally the case when you get into a war. I'll take that one down. The next up we have a Daily Telegraph, and it goes with a different story altogether. In fact, a good few of the rags ignore VE Day, the way that 95% of the population shall. Right, let's put it up. What's the Telegraph got for us this morning? Swinney, reform rise means Scots need Indie Ref 2. Now, according to the Telegraph, John has decided he's going to reignite the independence campaign. That should be interesting. We'll blow this up a wee second. Iranian terror cell in UK targeting Israel embassy. Iranian? I'm surprised there's no more. Terror cells targeting Israelis all over the world because of what's going on at the moment. And Pakistan vows revenge for every drop of blood spilt in bombing raid. And that's the story that India and Pakistan are at each other's throats again, this time over tourists that were killed in an area of Kashmir. And the escalation is moving fast. It really needs to be talked down. Pakistan and India are nuclear powers, and if they decide to go at each other with nuclear weapons, it'll be a bloody mess over a huge swathes of that continent, and the fallout will reach far and bloody wide. Right, after the Telegraph we have the Times, a bit calm this morning, so we get something to get the blood pumping. Iranian terror plot targets Israel embassy in London. Well, that's what its embassy is, in London. And apparently, how curious old dogs can be taught new tricks. Don't know about that. And a reform on course to be Scotland's second party. Wow, that's a cracker. Oh dear. But we'll get to that in the next one. We'll take that down. Next up, we've got the Daily Fail. The Daily Fail that said the SNP had a flimsy lead, they were way out in front. Poll yesterday changes the numbers a wee bit for the poll the month before that I was quoting for. I mean, it changes the numbers quite big actually. But we'll get into it when we get to the Telegraph, the Daily Fail. Let's put it up. And it's Tory warning as bombshell poll sees reform surge at Holyrood. Now, The poll was commissioned by True North, whoever the hell they are, a think tank, and they got Survation to do the polling for them. And the latest polling data that came out yesterday has got the SNP down from 36% of the vote share to 33% of the vote share. Reform on 19% of the vote share. That's up to. Labour on 19% of the vote share. That's down 5%. The Cons are doing another 3% to 11% of vote share. The Greens are doing 3% to 5% of the vote share. The Lib Dems are up from 9% to 11% of vote share. And Alba, no change at 1% of the vote share. Now, there's just no breaking into the public consciousness. But wow. So Reform and Labour are neck and neck. Now, when we do the seat breakdown on it, the SNP have 59 seats. The Greens have 10 seats. Reform have 21 seats. Labour have 19, and the rest go between the Greens, Lib Dems, and the Tories. So even with Reform, with Reform and Labour combining their seats would get them at about 40, and the Tories, who are predicted to be doing in the low numbers, add them in, and it still wouldn't be enough to form a coalition to take our government for the SNP. So the Lib Dems in there and on, it still wouldn't be enough. Wow. But Reform. Anyway, the headline: Tory warning bombshell poll sees Reform surge at Holyrood. Vote for Ives get Swinney. That's the danger with splitting the vote. Instead of 3 unionist parties, we now have 4 unionist parties. And it's got John shooken up to the point where he's actually talking about independence again. Interesting. He's going to have to get Mary a backbone in him, but it's got him talking about it again. And Nigel Farage could well be the next PM. I mean, you think they'd have learnt their fucking lesson after Bojo the Clown, wouldn't you? You really would have thought the people of England would have learnt their lesson after Bojo the Clown. But no. Yeah, they're off doing the bookies to back another fucking half-wit, compulsive liar, and probably a wee bit more dangerous than Bojo. Nurse, the people of England have gone batshit crazy, and it would appear that 20% of Scots have gone with them. Going to get the medication dished out, please. Oh, dearie. I mean, obviously, the 20% here in Scotland are going batshit crazy as well. They'll all be the Brit Nats in Scotland. The rest of us are still quite fucking sane. Or should I say, with 20% of the Brit Nats vote share in Scotland. Oh, they've all gone batshit crazy. Wow. Anyway, next up we've got the Herald. Let's see what nonsense the Herald's got for us today, shall we? It's been an outlier a few times lately. No, I don't. And the Herald is a story of the council, Glasgow City Council's ex-chief executive has to return cash and row over pensions. Now, I don't want to get into it. Anne-Marie apparently got too much money paid out to her on her way out the door. And Strathclyde Pension wants her chunky it back. Why that's a headline, I don't know, because apparently she's agreed to give it back. So, that the Herald, that's out there. And it's a story about how Strathclyde Pension is asking for money back for the ex-chief executive of Glasgow. Right, next up we've got the National. And the National's got its world correspondent telling us that the new world order or there is going to be a new world order and that the world is changing. So the National has, be under no illusions, there should be no misunderstanding here. What Trump's administration has brought to the world are threats not seen since just before the outbreak of the Second World War. Like it or not, in great part because of Trump, a new world order with new rules is taking shape. The challenge now, be it in Scotland, the UK, Europe and beyond, is to provide cast iron solidarity with those steadfast in ensuring that such a new world order is not solely shaped and determined by Trump. There you go. And the sub-headlines there, poll predicts Reform UK to finish second in Scotland. I don't think so. Will you be the PM to see Britain in The Hague? Is the question being asked on Starmer. Of Starmer. Now, yesterday was a debate on the escalation in Israel stating that it intends to clear the Gaza Strip and occupy it. In other words, settle it. Now, of course, the UK government says it's against it, but won't condemn Israel, won't suspend arms to Israel, won't stop military aid to Israel, as well as flights for a RAF Akrotira in Cyprus. It won't put an embargo on Israel, it won't sanction Israel, and it won't condemn Israel. I watched some of that debate yesterday, and the bollocks that was coming out their mouths. You just can't make it up. I also posted it in my timeline, by the way. They just won't tell Israel's enough is enough. And I guess we all know why. Trump wants his casinos, and Israel and the rest of the world wants Gaza's oil and gas. Not to forget the fact that Israel wants to build a new canal. Right, the scum has. Cops blitz on new crime gang. Kids saved from evil drug mob. Vulnerable children groomed. Vulnerable kids groomed. And apparently they're being groomed by sinister dealers. Is there any other type of dealer? When you're selling people something that will kill them. That's pretty sinister. Right. The eye has, let's put it up. The eye's gone on the situation, the escalation in the situation between Pakistan and India. Nuclear warning as Pakistan and India urged to step back from brink of war. Well, as I say, it's not a good thing if two nuclear powers decide to go to war with each other. Hopefully, neither leader is mad enough to hit the fucking big red button. But as I say, the situation there is escalating. Pakistan swore revenge on Indian strikes into Kashmir. They claim they were targeting terrorist encampments. 26 people died, I believe. The world's on fucking fire, folks. The world's on fire. Right, the Guardian has. What's the Guardian got for us this morning? As it seems to have kept into our paper review. Pakistan vows to strike back after Indian missile attacks killed dozens. And apparently Farage has got all the political parties in fright because the byline there is Farage is the fight of our lives, Labour told. And we've got a picture of a couple of nuns praying, and that's because the Cardinals were looked into the Vatican yesterday to select a new Pope. This could go on for quite a while, folks. This could go on for quite a while before there's a new leader of the Catholic faith. And next up we have the Metro. The Metro leads on an entertainment story. The entertainment story, as we've learnt through doing this paper review, is about an ex-member of a pop group called 1D. And his name was Liam, and he fell out of a building when he was drunk. Anyway, apparently he didn't leave a will, and he leaves 24 million to his son Bear, who is 8 years old. Well, hopefully, the young fella at 8 doesn't have the piss ripped to him, and the money will be there to see him through his life, and probably the life of his family, if it's invested properly. But apparently, this guy Liam didn't leave a will. Right. Last one up today, on the anniversary of the victory in Europe, is the Star, and it has Never Forget VE Day 80 years on souvenir edition. Never forget. Are they having a fucking laugh? Never forget. If they didn't fucking bring it up, we'd all forgo. Or the majority of us forgo. There are very few people still around who were involved. And most of us who had grandparents or parents who were involved, if it wasn't for the telly telling us, or the radio telling us of these important, so-called important events, they'd be well forgotten. Well forgotten. Would they be better being forgotten? Well, we don't seem to have learned anything from history when we look around the world. And we're on the brink of doing it again. So we are. So, never forget. Maybe if we forgot, we would forget about going to fucking war. But I guess until we get some humanitarians and governments right across the planet, then conflict is inevitable. I mean, if we look at Mr. Starmer, supposed to have been a humanitarian, a human rights lawyer, an advocate for humanity, and here he is backing a full-on genocide. And I mean fucking backing it. Intelligence, military aid, financial aid, diplomatic cover. If that's no backing it, this genocide, the fuck is? We need some humanitarians in government. And Scott Bryan, none of our grandparents spoke about the horrors that they witnessed during the war. Stiff upper lip, you know. The mental torture it cost these people were not talking about it. Didn't call them the silent generation for nothing. Well. Pretty tame today, folks. Now we got a wee bit more lively this afternoon. Interesting that it's taken Reform UK to scare Swinney into talking about independence again. Interesting. It's also interesting to see how Farage, the snake oil salesman, has shaken up all the political parties, especially the Tories, They are in meltdown. They are in an extinction throw. And Starmer's taking Labour down the same route. The question you've got to ask yourself is, why? These two parties that are destroying themselves were the central instrument of state. They weren't the parties for people. They were parties who represented the state. Now, in order to happen, in order for reform to get where it is today, it needs to be sponsored by the state. And well, it appears the rise of the right, which leads to authoritarianism, is being sponsored by the state. Why? The state's failing and it's going to try and protect itself. That's why. Right, that's it for the day. I need to nip out. I need to nip down to Motherwell. And we'll see you all again at 4 o'clock this afternoon. A few things to talk about. Especially John's change of heart. The rise of reform. The India trade deal actually being beneficial as opposed to no beneficial. And the visa situation having been portrayed as something other than what it was. And we'll get into why that is this afternoon. Okay. But you can bet your boot, folks, that the rise of Farage and reform is being sponsored by the state. And the reason? Unrest. There is civil unrest because the state is in a state, as Stevie Bankhurst just put in the comments. Catch you this afternoon. 4 p.m.